no fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right? Oh, oh. I have no fucks left. No, no. So fuck off. I'm busy. Bye bye. Piss off. Now sorry, don't cry.
I wait for her ham and her beef and her lamb
and her strawberry jam
and her pie.
That's right.
I away more than anyone should owe. So I think I'll start in Idaho.
All together.
I have no fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks.
Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello, greetings and salutations. Welcome, one and all, to an all-new episode of my podcast, No Fucks Left. And by my, just to clarify further, I mean me, Landyn Shaw. I'm so happy to have you here. I have a phenomenal show today because I went down memory lane with a very, very good friend of mine, fellow actor. He's appeared on Broadway, film, television. His name is Barry Anderson, and his interview is coming right up. But first, we have to celebrate him in the word of the day.
What's the word?
Like clockwork, every single time. There's that trusty old theme song. So, as we move along in these episodes with interviews, I am going to do a much better job, and hopefully you've noticed this, by making sure the episode is all about the guest. That's the way it should be. And so this word of the day celebrates just that. Our word of the day is Wisconsin. Wisconsin. It's a fun little state. I grew up not 20 minutes away from the Wisconsin border, so I've spent much time in Wisconsin. And that is the state where my lovely guest is from. Barry is from Osseo, Wisconsin, very close to Eau Claire. And we talk all about that and so much more. So to celebrate him and to celebrate that great state, I want you to sing, dance, talk in your best Wisconsin accent. You know, go crazy, have fun, celebrate this very fun communal podcast and my guest, Barry Anderson, every time you hear Wisconsin.
What about love? I never mentioned love. The timing's bad, I know. But perhaps if I'd made it more clear that you belong right here, you wouldn't have to go. 'Cause you know that I'm so much in love.
So I don't know why, but suddenly when I was putting together and editing my last episode with a guest, which was the fabulous Anne Harada, I just, for whatever reason, thought, you know what, Landyn, you are doing this all wrong. You need to just make the entire episode when you have a guest about them, from the little clips of music you play to the word of the day to just overall, like the focus should just be on them. And I don't know why it took me so long to recognize that. I feel quite bad. But I did it, and the feedback was outstanding. Even my very good friend AJ and someone who I rely on heavily in terms of just his critiques and comments and what have you, was like, oh, that episode was tight. And I even thought, like, if someone called me tomorrow and said, you have to submit an episode for this, consideration in this award, I would have sent that one. I was so proud of it. And so, again, because this is always evolving, that's kind of what hopefully you're going to continue to keep seeing. As I interview these great guests, it just makes sense to center the entire episode around them. And so that's what I'm going to do.
You're guaranteed a salary, and as soon as Mercury's in Taurus, you bring me 4 songs and I'll record them. Meanwhile, you sing background for my artists.
Hal Miller and the Rays, An Angel Cry. Take 1.
My guest who also happens to be a very good friend of mine, Barry Anderson, has rural Midwestern roots. He was born and raised in Osseo, Wisconsin, and began singing and studying piano as a young kid. He started acting at age 12, appearing in a summer stock production of Peter Pan. And then after graduating with a music degree from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, he worked steadily in regional theaters and moved to NYC. And after studying acting with Rochelle Oliver at HB Studio, Barry began work in film, television, including portraying Calvin Klein and Ryan Murphy's Halston on Netflix, as well as American Horror Story, Billions, Bupkis, Law and Order Organized Crime, and The Blacklist. On Broadway, Barry appeared as Aaron Schultz in Legally Blonde the Musical. He also understudied Emmett. And he appeared as Bob Crewe in Jersey Boys. He's currently working on 2 original musicals, with one of the 2 being a holiday musical entitled Tinseled, which I have included links to in the program notes, and you'll hear a little clip of it throughout this episode. I was so honored to have this opportunity to reconnect with Barry. We haven't seen each other in a very long time personally. We first worked together at the Dutch Apple Dinner Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Actually, we didn't first work there. We worked at Broadway Palm in Fort Myers, Florida. Then we took the show up to Lancaster, and you'll hear all about it. He's just a phenomenal talent. He's like a multi-hyphenate artist who's just so incredibly gifted in everything that he does. And I loved sitting down with him. You're going to hear that. It's such a great conversation. And for you, the listener, not only does Barry share a lot of great insights and experience and perspective that he's learned along the way, but you get the benefit of kind of seeing 2 friends reconnect again and rediscover, how this relationship is going to work, or how it can work, which is really beautiful. I've been thinking a lot about the interview since we talked and since I saw Barry, and it was just so good to see him. And I think you're definitely going to enjoy this. So here's my interview with Barry Anderson.
You're meant to be one of the heroes.
Hello. Can you?
Hello.
I'm doing these AirPods for the first time with this, so.
Ooh, look at you. Look at you.
I can hear you so clearly.
Oh my God. Oh,
Hi.
my heart. My heart.
Oh my gosh, my heart. It's been so long.
That's exactly how I was going to start this. When was the last time we saw each other? It had to be State Fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
the only show I think we did together, but that like concentrated time of like
Almost a year.
both theaters. Yeah.
Yeah. God, we only did one show together? That's crazy.
I think so. Because then I stayed and I went back, and you had been there before, but yeah, I think State Fair was.
Yes, I did Will Rogers Follies and what's that other one? Oh, Funny Girl. I did that one in Pennsylvania, and then Florida. We did State Fair. Went back to Pennsylvania, and then I went to go do Christmas Carol. You stayed and did Wizard of Oz, right?
Back. I think I did a Christmas show there too.
Yeah. You did.
Fair.
Yeah.
But that was like 20, that was 2000, right? 25 years ago. Like,
holy shit. Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
That's insane.
It's so good to reconnect.
I agree. And that's the one thing I love about this business is that seemingly you can go 25 years without seeing each other and suddenly see each other. And it's as if a day didn't go by.
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
I know.
Because you look exactly the same.
I don't know about that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I feel kind of similar.
Yeah.
Energy-wise and all the things to back then.
Yeah.
But it's got a quarter of a century.
I know. But maybe it's because we were so young. We were so
So
young.
young.
So young.
young.
So young,
Yeah.
so foolish, so unaware of what was going to happen in the future.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all the people I've ever met, I don't know why, but for some reason, I always remember that you were from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I don't know if it's because
Wow.
every time I didn't even have to look that up. I memorized it. Like, it must have been because every time you introduced yourself, you went, "Hi, I'm Barry from Eau Claire, Wisconsin."
It's funny.
Because that stuck out to me. So because it's been so long, but because I feel like I knew you forever, tell me a bit about growing up in Eau Claire. What was young Barry like?
Well, I didn't grow up in Eau Claire, and I didn't even grow up in the town I was from. Like, I don't know if you remember, but I am from like the woods,
Oh
in
my
Wisconsin.
gosh.
So Eau Claire, it was over a half-hour drive away.
Okay.
But the big town that was closest that offered any sort of movie theater and stoplight situation, any sort of thing. It's where I went to university. Like I got my degree from the college there. But yeah, I'm from Osseo, which is just south of there on the interstate.
Okay.
But like my graduating class had 65 people in it, and no stoplights there at the time. And we were 9 miles out of that town, so dirt road when I was very little growing up, and country. We had horses and
Wow.
just woods, and all the things that go with that. And,
Yeah. And
hunting.
what was like a normal day like for you? Like, I mean, I have no idea of what that kind of life would be like growing up in Chicago and always being near big cities. What was your access to the arts and theater? And
I credit my dad's side of the family because he's still in a band, and they've been playing for 52 years. He started long ago, and they were sort of like the go-to cover band in the West Central Wisconsin area, and they still play for weddings, and they still play at wineries and summer festivals and all the things. So I grew up kind of with that around me, which I always thought was kind of cool and fun and exciting. Just music, and then also the performative aspect of it, and microphones, and the fact that they were providing people a really fun service, and everyone that seemed to go to, if ever I was along for a dance or something, and it was like the town summer festival, and people were just having a blast, and it was all due to what was happening on stage. So I think that sparked a lot of it too. And his mom and dad were both very musical. His whole family was musical. So Christmas Eves at Grandma and Grandpa's was about like, Grandma was on the guitar and Grandpa would play harmonica, and we would sing carols, and everyone was harmonizing. And it was just that sort of environment, which I look back and it was idyllic and shaped a lot of, I think, the love of music.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And, but then in terms of like wanting to get on stage and I was quickly drawn to cast albums and soundtracks. I'm sure you remember these days.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Were you like that too? Like,
oh my goodness, yeah. Well, back then we had to go to the library, so I would get. I got the double cassette of Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera. Those were my first two, nonstop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like the LPs. I'm talking like
vinyl.
And a whole afternoon's activity, because I'm one of two kids in our family, and my sister's 5.5 years younger than me. So I had several years where it was just me and the record player, and go outside and pretend and create little villages in the woods, and just, find ways to keep busy,
Yeah.
In fact, my mom used to say that a lot. Barry, go find something to do, so, okay. But a lot of time spent on the floor looking at the liner notes and the pictures from these shows and movies. I mean, the Sound of Music soundtrack, I lived and died by that thing. I played it over and over. And that combined with the photos from it, I was so young that I didn't quite know to discern it from real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think part of me thought like the picture of Andrea McArdle and Sandy next to the trash can in the fold-out album of Annie was an actual photo of this girl. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obsessed. But I mean, I would just listen over and over and, sort of, I guess, kind of analyze and imagine and think and appreciate certain, even little weird things in the orchestration or the arrangement or, the trumpet solo in that overture to Annie, like that kind of stuff. Yeah. It just was imprinted, I think. And then as I got older, I think I discovered that was those weren't real people. Those were people pretending. But I always wanted to be a Von Trapp kid. I just, and then found out that people could do it and play pretend over and over again and go do that, live that whole story over again, night after night. And so I think eventually I just wanted to find ways to also be in that club somehow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So was life in the woods very simple? Was it a simple life? Were you very creative and just always make-believing things? Like, I can only imagine that with my creativity, living in the woods would have been outstanding. It would have been phenomenal. There would have been amazing forts, amazing decorations. Like, I would have gone to town. Was that your 100%. Experience? Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
I had some cousins that were close by, same town and stuff. So a lot of time spent with the cousins. Yeah, snow forts. But also, I was hugely into Smurfs, for sure. When those
that's perfect.
Yeah. And so I had my own Smurf village and, just make believe and complete imagination and creating. So I really do. Yeah, it was simple. And it was very safe and very innocent.
Yeah.
And I suppose slow paced now looking back, because I have a niece and a nephew now and they are involved in a lot of stuff. And, they're not even that old, but it is a lot of, I think that's just the way things are more now.
Yeah. It is wild that, like, no matter where you are, if you put the internet in a kid's hand, wherever they are, it's going to totally change them. It's going to change their imagination, their creativity. Yeah, things are going to be very literal. And I think that is the advantage that you and I had growing up, was that we had nothing. So when your parents said go outside, you went outside.
Yeah, go outside. And you talked about going to the library. I was thinking about that the other day too, about just how, if you wanted something bad enough, or you wanted to look up something bad enough, or you had to get the information, you would it took some time.
Yeah.
A trip to the library, to research things or look it up. And I know when I was in high school, we had to do a senior paper for English and pick a topic. And I chose Stephen Sondheim because by that point I was very focused and just in love with theater and musical theater. And, but I mean, I think about how did we just took the time to find the books, and thankfully there were books about that.
Yes.
Now it's so different. And even starting out in business, I mean, the way as I was graduating college, it was just like, well, let's figure this out. There's internet, I guess, this thing called internet, so old, #old.
Yeah. A bunch of old farts sitting around. But
exactly.
So when was your first show? Like, when were you actually in your first show? Was that junior high school?
Well, I definitely was involved in all of the church and school programs, and those I considered big time, because it was some sort of audience and some sort of stage to perform, and just I always felt it was very high stakes, and I took it very seriously. But when I was in 6th grade, there was, at the time, the university in Eau Claire they had a long running summer theater program. That I think the year I auditioned for it was their 25th season. So they were going to do a big production to celebrate that. And they ended up doing Peter Pan. There was a friend of the family who kind of sent me, I think, or sent my folks the little audition notice, knowing that I was sort of into that sort of thing. And I went, and I had a broken arm in a big old plaster cast, which I don't think they even use anymore. But couldn't move my arm. I took sheet music to the Rainbow Connection, and just went and did this. What then was considered just, again, high stakes and like professional, right?
Yeah.
It was a first sort of exposure to that, and ended up getting chosen to be in it as one of the Lost Boys, and that was so instrumental.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Life-changing, probably.
Life-changing, as I think back about it, and I talk about it a lot, but because I was still, I was 12, about to turn 13, my voice hadn't changed. I was still, that sort of innocent kid who could sing high.
Yeah.
And then just the fact that there were adults in this show on par with what the kids were doing too. Like, we were all in this together, and that had never, I don't think I'd ever experienced that.
Right.
Where they weren't in an authoritative
position. You're on the same plane. Yeah,
which was fascinating to me, and it just was so exciting. Exciting.
So needless to say, it probably it bit the bug for you. Like it gave you everything you were hoping for. And I remember that first moment for myself too, where I was like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this, but now, yes, I am in.
So what show was it for you?
Oh God. Well, actually, it was an audition more than anything at Marriott Lincolnshire. So the same kind of it. Well, no, please. I lived in Chicago, so of course it's going to be one of those. But it was the same situation where I auditioned for Tom of Warwick in Camelot, and it was at the big theater, and we all knew it. We saw shows there, and so just to even be on the stage for the audition was like I don't care if I get it. I'm now on this stage. I've been on this stage, and I made it to the callbacks, and we were like 10 or 11. But it was that same kind of thing, exactly what you said, where I saw the adults being kind of on the same level as me, and there was the same expectations of delivery and the audition. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is really good. Like, this could, even if I don't get it, this could really, shape me. And it did, and obviously I already knew I wanted to do it, and I was really set on it, but that experience just changed my life. Definitely. Yeah.
Yep.
So I know music is really big in your life, and I definitely want to get there. But even at this time, because I didn't, for some reason, really know about the music in your life. I knew you're a phenomenal actor, a phenomenal singer, amazing dancer, and the music just was really part of that. Did that start kind of in the beginning there with seeing your dad in bands and all of that, the music aspect around you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Singing was just something I always sort of did, and then was encouraged. I think I do remember my mom talking about these cast albums, like playing the Oliver, cast recording, and introducing me to that. And thank goodness, like that was the foresight, and that they recognized that I was gravitated toward that interest, because they could have easily just to turn on the radio and played whatever was popular, but which we also did. And my dad listened to anything and everything, and so wide range of stuff. But I think I do remember her saying, like, you can sing like that. Can you sing that song? You know what I mean? Like, so that singing was definitely an interest, and something I guess I felt comfortable doing and wasn't shy about.
And it was probably something you could see everyone doing. So it wasn't like you had to associate singing and music with being in a building or something. It was very accessible, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was also very drawn to, I had an aunt and uncle who had a piano in their basement. And this was before we got a piano. And I was like, again, 6 or 7, I think. But I would just go down in their basement and make up songs that I pretended were on TV, or like the sound, just making the silly stuff that made no sense. But, and that was another passion. And actually what I ended up going to college for, I was a piano major my first year, and was definitely like hardcore piano player, and would accompany recitals and all of that. And so it was sort of this kind of parallel. I love playing piano, but I don't know that I want to major in it. I really like doing shows and acting, and how can I try to balance both? And so I ended up getting a music ed degree.
Okay.
And then student taught, and then went to Chicago, drove down there with my mom just before I graduated college, and got a job at a dinner theater. So I never did.
So what was that job? What was your first?
That was State
ours?
Fair.
It was really. That was your first job.
Yes, I had just graduated college. So
shut the front door. Wow.
Yeah, which is why I was so wide-eyed and green and like, ooh, like so excited to be working with you, and just like, again, every step along the way, it feels like another big milestone and a learning opportunity. Yeah. So that was a huge, impactful time.
I can't believe that was your first job. That's insane, because you came
I had done summer stuff.
Right. But wow. Yeah, because you were just, I always kind of, and I don't do this as much anymore, but I assess people based on not just how they are as a talent on stage, but then who are they off stage? Like, what kind of person? Do they have the business acumen? Do they understand this industry fully and the import of relationships and connections? And you seem to get all of that, like right out of the gate. And I know that's weird that I assess people like that in our industry, but it's important to me because I feel like if you're really good on stage, but then you kind of just are a little bit of a mess off stage, I kind of go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I don't see how the two can work, but all right. So when I do meet someone like yourself, and you're in the rarity, and our Bender Robinson, who I talked to a little bit, I met him at Dutch Chapel as well. He was very much like this too, where he just came in and it seemed like fully formed, ready to go. Like you and him, you just knew like, oh, big things are in store for them. They have the whole package.
Well, I think part of it for me too, it was like I took 5 years for college. So I was a healthy 23 when I, I was pretty, and I wanted to make sure that I kind of stayed close to home for school. Yeah. And in hindsight, that's pros and cons to that, I think, because after I started doing theater for my career, it was like, oh, I guess I probably should have maybe pursued a conservatory program or fast track this a little more. But, I think just any life experience serves you well. Mm-hmm. So, and perspective and like what really matters, and, don't stop small stuff too. So, but yeah, I think I did have my sort of like theater mentor during school. He actually directed that Peter Pan when I was a kid, and then I ended up studying with him in college. But he did say to me before I graduated, because I went into his office just sort of like seeking advice, right? Like we all sort of go through this. I still do. It's like, tell me what to do. What is the next right step?
Yep.
And I do remember him saying something about, I think you have the goods to do this or something, but like if there's one thing that might hold you back or I think the way he worded it was like, you're too good, quote unquote, to be an actor. And I think obviously what he meant was, you may play it too safe, or you're trying, you definitely play by the rules.
Yep.
And And so I've thought of that a bunch too, because, look, some of the best actors, like you were saying, are kind of maybe are hot messes off.
Yes.
Off set or off stage, so I don't think the two they don't always require each other. Right.
Oh no. Yeah.
But
God, it's so funny that I literally was going to ask you, like, do you feel that growing up in the Midwest, like I did, has kind of bitten you or has held you back? And I often think that I really do, because of this whole idea of Midwest nice, and that both coasts seem so far away, at least for me. I was like, I'm not going to even contemplate New York or LA. I just want to conquer Chicago. Like, I had a great city in my backyard. Why not do that? But then, and I thought it was going well, but then in Chicago, as I know many cities go through, we started growing our theater community, and we started getting Broadway directors to direct now in Chicago, and world premieres. And that brought with it this, New York contingency of creative types and actors. And suddenly the jobs were not necessarily going to the locals anymore, because there was this overwhelming thought, and we know it still exists today, where, they don't want to see local talent, they want to see New York talent, not understanding that hardly anyone working in New York is from New York. Exactly. So it's always like, okay, that makes no sense. But I have gone through stages in my career and life where I thought, I'm just too nice. I'm too nice. That's what's hurting. And I don't mean to say that like, feel sorry for me, but that, I don't have that edge. I always play nice. I always I worry more about my reputation than anything else. And I know that's held me back, in many ways. So it's interesting to hear you say that, truly.
Yeah. I think for a while, and especially in those first couple of years out of school, in fact, this is funny. I remember, the character I played in State Fair.
Harry.
Yeah. Harry. Yes. Oh my gosh. You remember.
I played that role in Chicago with Mark Robin when we did it. Roberta Duchek.
Yes.
I did it at Munster Theater Center, and I was playing Harry, and I went, oh my God, this is hilarious. Yeah.
So funny. But that character is written sort of
nebbish,
folksy, very Iowan. And so I remember like literally blocking the first scene or whatever. And I there was no effort to hide my Wisconsin drawl, shall we say. And Jack, I think was the director. Oh,
yes.
And I remember him saying, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Wisconsin. But it worked. It so worked for that character. And I think just that wholesome sort of corn-fed, whatever. And so luckily that equaled a little bit of like a win in terms of like, okay, I can embrace, there is room for that. And so that was, I think, a little teaching moment for me.
Yeah.
But yes, I think you're right in terms of there is a level of cutthroatness maybe that you need. I don't know that I subscribe to the belief of it having to happen in a room within a cast or a company. But I think just in terms of, being willing to fight for yourself, and maybe not even against other people, but just like getting up every day and having that fight in you.
Yeah.
But I think, look, niceness will get you rehired way faster than being known as a problem.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And that's what I often say. I tell people like, yes, I haven't been on Broadway yet, but I also am not ruling it out. I never gave myself a timeline. And that's kind of how I've managed to get by this far, is that I love theater. So I'll do anything, any job, you name it. I'll do it. Company management. Yes. And then there's that idea that, if I'm an older actor that finally is making it on Broadway in a cameo because there are no older actors that want to do this anymore because they're so tired, then great. That opens the door for me, and I'll become the new, kind of character, senior, mature actor that everyone wants to cast. Great, fine. And it's probably, as I look at my life, probably for the best, because as I'm sure you've heard when you listen to the podcast or my stories, like, I never had this figured out. I didn't know who I was this entire time. And I don't think you can succeed as an artist if you don't know who you are, know,
right.
Or at least not in the most authentic and genuine of ways. I feel like the art I'm creating now is finally very real. It's alive because it's a true extension of me now. Whereas before it was an extension of someone that I was pretending to be, Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know that ever ends. It's like the evolution part of it all too. And I think I'm in a place where type wise, I was one type for a long time. And now I'm just too old to, play a collection of roles or types or whatever. So it's what else is out there? What else can I try and learn and how can I learn about myself more?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the perfect example of that too, for sure.
I definitely don't have anything figured out, but I mean, I do feel there's a weight that has been lifted, most definitely. And I do feel like now, as an artist, all the things that I love about this industry, all the thing that I love about being on stage and all of that has shifted in a way that I don't even know how to describe yet. Because again, it was just that I was faking it. And as long as I was in a show, I was golden. I didn't have to deal with real life, because I was just like, oh, well, I don't have to worry about that. I'm Pippin, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And so for me, the way that I could, kind of stay above board in everything that I was dealing with was just keep working. Go, show. So back in that day, as you remember, I was all about, I'm taking the longest contract that I can find, and I want to be planted for a while, and then I will get in my car, drive to the next city, and hopefully put down roots for another 6 months. And that was just kind of what was happening. And I think I told myself that I was doing this for my career, which I was, but I think I was really doing it for myself too, because every job I was on, I didn't have to think about reality.
Yes, I get that for sure.
Which it makes me value friendships like you and even Arbender, as I was saying, because somehow I feel like, and I don't know if this is true, but somehow I feel like you somehow saw who I was, not just what I was putting out there, but you and I seemed to have a connection that was very real and wasn't forced. And I thought, okay, even if I don't know who I am or what's going on, this is real. And I was constantly trying to hold on to reality. And so there, you are in a kind of collective of people that no matter where we are in life, I feel like we'll always have this foundational, kind of support that started in true authenticity and true just friendship and reality, and I think that's why people like you are still in my life, even after all this, because those that I didn't have that with, I've cut them out. They're gone.
Yeah. Life's too short, right?
Yeah.
To not surround yourself with, the connection. Folks.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know that after your experience at Dutch Apple, Broadway Palm, etc., you do My Fair Lady with Troika, or?
Yes. Yeah. That was 2001. In fact, I was working in Lancaster, and again,
you said it right. Did you hear that, everyone? He said Lancaster, right?
I spent several years there.
I know.
The clip clop of the buggies going by.
I still, I love that. I missed that. Yeah.
The smell of the Twizzlers being made.
Yes.
But again, I think I went to the local library and used their internet.
Wow.
If it's that long ago, I guess it's a laptop or a cell phone, but and looked up auditions, and it was Dave Clemens casting, and they were casting all of the Troika tours, I think, at the time.
Yeah, back then, a
handful of them, and so My Fair Lady worked out, and again, what an exciting thing. And I remember being on the phone with the GM at the time, who I don't remember her name, but I was negotiating my own little contract, and I was just going to say yes to whatever. But she did say, just so you know, it's grueling. It will be a grueling schedule and a grueling thing. And I didn't care. I was like, yes, please. I'll be there,
Yeah.
So super excited to do that. And we rehearsed at NOLA Studios, on 54th. And I stayed with my friend Peter, and he was on 52nd. And 9/11 happened then while we were rehearsing. And it was a Tuesday morning, and went to rehearsal, and the world was on, up in arms. And so then it was just crazy to have been here then, because I had only been landed. My first time in New York was with you.
Yeah.
Ever.
When we went backstage, you were with me, right? Yeah. We met Charlotte Dembois.
Yes.
And Terrence Mann was in the room the entire time, and we had no idea. That is so funny. I
love that story, because I think we left. There were 4 of us, and I remember leaving the dressing room and looking at you being like,
Terrence Mann.
Yeah.
And the stage manager even said, "Oh, did you say hi to Terry in there?" And we were like, "No, I thought he was just the costumer." Someone he didn't look like himself. Yeah. I was in the same room with you. And then I made that ridiculous joke about Sandy Duncan and Peter Pan, because that was the dressing room. That was the woman that had the dressing room before Charlotte. And I was just like,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I still get starstruck. I totally do. Yeah. So, but I totally remember that. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe that was your first time.
That was literally the year before. And then a year later was 9/11. But I was definitely not a New York resident.
Right.
For very long. And then that happened, and it was like, is this normal? What is happening?
Wow.
And so, as the years go by, and in hindsight, I do feel oddly grateful for having been here for that, and just to have witnessed not only the city, but the theater community and the Broadway community sort of just come together.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Little did we know we'd be tested again 18 years later.
Oh my gosh. I know.
And speaking of which, I was on a Troika tour. When that happened, I was doing Color Purple as company manager. And we were one of the last tours that literally come off the road. It was us and I think one other one. And it was because we were in Florida and no one was canceling shows at that time. Literally.
One of the last states. Right?
Yep. Yeah. Wild. Totally wild.
Did you have anyone get sick in the show?
No. That was what's so crazy. Knock on wood, all of my cast members were reporting on a daily basis that family members were in the hospital suddenly. And that's when we were kind of like, ooh, okay. And I was in constant contact with the home office and getting updates. But it was like my wife was telling me, you should probably just buy out every bottle of Purell you can find because there's shortages, and you should buy this. And so I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee when all that started, and it was wild. And then the very last day that the tour got called back, we were in Miami, and it was a ghost town. Miami was the airport, the hotel was a mess. They couldn't fully staff the hotel, so they were just basically come down to the front desk and get what you need. It was wild. It's
wild times, right?
Yeah. But for your show, My Fair Lady 9/11, were you guys even thinking that there was going to be a tour after that? Or
I mean, no one knew, right?
Yeah.
Because we were close to being ready to go to do our tech rehearsals. So we only had I think a few more days in the studio. And everything was in flux and in question, of course, so I think we took a day or two off, and then we finished, and then went on as normal.
Wow.
But I don't know if you remember, but that was shortly after that. I remember we had just started performing the tour, and that anthrax scare also happened.
Oh my God.
Sending anthrax in the mail. There were just so many scary little things happening. And I remember thinking, what we are doing is so frivolous, and there are so many bigger fish to fry right now. We're doing this little show. Why? But then quickly, I was reminded, like, people need to be distracted right now, and let's give them something fun to go do for 2.5 hours. So I really did end up feeling like a total service that we were providing.
I totally get what you mean, though, because I was just about to start Joseph at the Royal George Theatre. With a whole cast. I was involved in the kind of management of it because I just fractured my vertebrae in Amana. Remember Godspell? I think I had told you about that. And so we were in the same boat where 9/11 happened, and we had just had auditions for that show on 9/10, September 10th. So our narrator, who was already kind of cast because this was a remount, was flying back to New York, and we honestly got on a conference call that morning. We're like, has anyone heard from anyone? Like, we were so up in arms, and then we didn't know if the show was even going to go on and open. And we thought, if it does open, how long is it going to run? And it was craziness. But then ultimately what really made us kind of all get on the same page was we were like, listen, the world is shit right now, but they need this show. They need art. They need an escape. And I do think that is one of the things that constantly keeps me going, is that even through the grind of it all, people need us. People do need this, Yeah,
it's such a good reminder, whether it's a terrorist attack or a pandemic or a new administration, what have you. Like, it's such a good reminder. And every time I go see a show too, it's nice to turn off the brain to certain things and just be taken away somewhere else.
So the story I don't know, but I remember, again, marveling at and being like, of course he's in this, was Legally Blonde. How did all that happen for you?
Okay, so let's see. That fast forwarding a few years. So after that My Fair Lady tour, I think, got done in 2002, I hustled and just was building a resume and working regionally and like subletting in New York to, again, go out of town and do some shows. And I try to gain experience and do roles and just sort of learn, and then got offered my equity card in 2004 and turned it down at the last minute just because I was quite busy and finding success as a non-union performer at that point, and just given my age and all the things. So I ended up taking my equity card in 2007, and the following year, so then I was ready, like I was ready I had been doing bigger auditions, and I was kind of calling New York home base for real, and spending much more time here, and really I'd gotten an agent at that point and all the things. So I had seen the show out of town in San Francisco, and I remember kind of clocking the role of Emmett, just watching Christian Borle in the show, and sort of thinking like that I connect with that vibe and that role, and if anything in the show, I mean, that's something that I think I could probably, it'd be fun to do sometime, or that seems sort of close to my wheelhouse in a way. And so auditions for the, let's see, let me think about this timeline. So Noah Weisberg, who played Aaron Schultz, and you probably know Noah. He I would not have been cast in one of my all-time favorite shows if it weren't for Noah. I played Willard in Footloose at Stages in St. Louis right when I moved here, and it was because Noah dropped out to go do the PAP that summer. And they even said, like, you were our second choice, but we can't get our first, Noah Weisberg. And I'm like, that's fine. And I literally called up Noah and went, hey, thanks for dropping out. It's so funny. Oh, we both have thank you, Noah stories.
Exactly.
Yes. So the show had been running. He opened the original cast. He left. So they were auditioning replacements for Aaron Schultz, Broadway. And I got down to, there were two of us, and they went with the other actor at the time, Bryce Reines, who ended up doing the show for a while, and then he booked Hair. And I think it was in the park.
Yeah.
So there was another opportunity there. Meanwhile, because that had gone so well, they called me in for the tour, which they were launching a first national tour of the show. And so I went to those auditions as well. Nice. And so they had seen me, and they had seen me. I had never felt so good in an audition room as that Aaron Schultz replacement call. And it was very exciting. And it was, producers behind the table. And it was sort of like that quintessential, like, oh, what, this might happen. Like, this is a Broadway audition. Like, oh my gosh. So, or more specifically, oh my God, you guys, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, again, thankfully, it's just timing and circumstance and luck. It was that Bryce ended up getting another opportunity, and it just timing was such that that role opened up again, and it was only a 1.5 year run on Broadway. So the fact that I got to be the third and final Aaron, and then understudy Christian for a few of those months at the end, it just was like, yeah, that's how that all happened. And I ended up going then on the tour for a 1.5 years after that. So that was a good 2 years of my life. Night
and day difference between My Fair Lady and Legally Blonde tour, huh?
Oh, yeah. Very different.
Sit downs.
There.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, in terms of the schedule too.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, everything. It's so much different and so much easier. And you do an equity tour after a non-equity, and you go, oh, now this I could do. This I could do.
And again, like, I was so thankful that I had that chance to do the bus and truck thing, and also put my years, I'm talking like 7 years, you know, I had been since graduating college to that opportunity here in New York. So I did feel grateful, or try to on a daily basis, just be like, okay, real talk here. This is amazing, right? What is happening right now is amazing. So just soak it up. And it's funny too, because when it happened, the show was very popular, and it did this. There was a reality show to find Laura Bell's replacement, and I came into the show sort of as she was leaving. I did a few weeks with her, and then her winner of this show took over, and but the kids went back to school. It was the fall, and so every day we were looking at like the grosses and how long are we going to have this job, and it becomes a different little thing, right?
It's no longer about the art anymore. It's the commerce. The
commerce. It's a whole factor in it. And so knowing, like, when I've been on tour, you get this company managing, like they give you a list of your towns and your schedule, and you know where you're going to be for like the next year, which is,
we prepare that for you. my office.
There you go.
Yes. We do all that.
Alongside many other things and all the hats that come. I mean, I bow down to.
It's a grind. It
is a lot. Wrangling a circus of.
Yes, but I miss it at the same time. It's wild. I'm a glutton for punishment. Sure. Were you involved in Legally Blonde when you guys did the MTV recording?
I wasn't. No.
Okay.
I think that was for the most part. That was a good portion of the OGs. Like, there were. I think only a couple of people had left the show when they filmed that.
What a brilliant move!
Brilliant move.
Brilliant.
And that was they had young producer who kind of spearheaded that whole arm of
very
of
smart.
That.
Very
yeah,
smart.
So
I remember that.
And it really hadn't been done before. And
yeah.
So there was just a
perfect
lot of
show to do it with. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know, like, we're going to jump big time because we're going from Legally Blonde, which you said was like 2007, to kind of now. I know there's tons other roles and experiences and everything there, but I really want to kind of button up here on your music because I know that is huge. Were you always doing your music throughout your acting career and navigating music, or was it kind of something that just was like light bulb, like, hey, the roles aren't necessarily as plentiful as they were, let's pivot?
Yeah.
How did that all kind of happen?
Well, it kind of started like I was talking about before, like as me as a kid going from making things up to then learning piano and making sense of how to play, and then getting a hand-me-down 8-track recorder from my cousin to, recording stuff at home, to then in college, I had a professor who the show was Mother Courage, and he wanted a original music to set the Bertolt Brecht lyrics that were in the script. So he trusted me to kind of compose melodies for this show, and so I learned a ton about just jumping in and writing songs that were sort of evocative of the time and the era, and I was playing a concertina. I had to learn how to play a concertina, which one of the other music professors kind of tutored me on that. And then we had a field drum, and so he said, I just want the feel of it, they're at war, and so it's just very, very earthy and bare bones, so here, have at it. So I felt like that was like a whole, like, I got a little master's degree there, and opportunity. So, and then kind of didn't really think about composing too much until I got on tour with shows, Legally Blonde, and then for sure I was on Jersey Boys for quite a while. And you just need things to keep you busy during the days, as you know.
Yeah.
Hotels, and I had room enough in my trunk for a short keyboard to kind of fit diagonally, so I could travel a keyboard with me, thank goodness. And I did a lot of just writing and trying to learn and just keeping busy. So that morphed into collaborating with a co-writer who lives in London, my pal Mark Petty, and he and I have written since about 2010 together.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So we've done a couple of studio albums of different things. One is a holiday album, and I did a lot of that work while I was out on the road with Jersey Boys, and was able to collaborate with our musicians out there and some people in the cast, and they contributed to the recording. I would be in Detroit for a few weeks and look up a local recording studio and sort of make that happen and just piecemeal it together. So it was fun. And then I guess another step along the way was the pandemic in terms of the composing stuff. Stuck at home. Good use of my time was like, okay, let's double down on some of this songwriting stuff.
Yeah.
So right now I'm working on 2 different shows. They're very different in terms of tone. And it's exciting because it's really the first time I've kind of dipped my toes into like a book musical situation. A lot of what I've written in the past has been kind of one-off or little specific things, but it's been very fun to write for characters and have a story and some sort of guardrails, right? Parameters and tasks. So,
I love it.
I
love it.
One is a holiday show that's family friendly. It's called.
What is that one called again?
Tinseled.
Tinseled. That's it. Yeah.
Yes. So actually, I think you would enjoy it, Landyn.
Oh, I'm sure I would. I love anything holiday related.
Hear more, later once we get it on its feet a little more. But we're kind of at that stage of we just did another script read through with some actors last week, and it's getting exciting because we have sort of the pillars and the bones, and the show is there.
Yeah.
And as you know, it just takes years to make it go from an idea in your head to the page to a pitch to eventually, hopefully, a production. So
well, I'm championing new works all the time. Like that is my jam. That's where I see, my whole future being is making sure that new stories, new voices get out there. I think we're so inundated with revivals and IP and, going to the well and just going to movies and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I get it, but come on.
I know. I feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is tricky because that is, again, commerce. And in terms of commercial theater, it's like at the bottom line is the money, and it's how can we give the audiences what they want, and it's the IP that they're already familiar with. But it is exciting to be creating something. For me, the kind of stuff I like to write and kind of spend time teaching people and giving them music to learn. It's like accessible stuff, and it's stuff that I think isn't too heady or complicated at the end of the day, but like just enough so that you have to listen, and hopefully it serves the story well, but it's also like, for the most part, stuff that hopefully people will remember or kind of like dig as they're watching the show as well. And it's
See, I'm such a nerd. I have such a passion for anyone that can write music, write lyrics. Like that's the one aspect that I can sort of do. I've done it before. I wrote a kid's version of Alice in Wonderland that I did at Wichita Children's Theater many, many moons ago, and then at a couple other theaters, and it was fun. And I love writing, but I just marvel at someone that can be so incredibly talented like you on stage, and then off stage can just bang out some songs and play the piano and write music. And that's the coup de grace for me. Like that's just outstanding that you are able to do that. And many people in this industry are, but I love that. I love that. I will always marvel at that aspect of it.
I definitely am still learning how I work best and quickest.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the one thing I take my time for sure. And I'm such an editor, and I want to get it right, and I want to make sure it's right. And so I'm very much an editor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, again, sort of along the same lines as the acting thing. You find out what your strengths are and what aren't maybe your strongest aspects, and you kind of hone those. And
and what are your strengths right now? What do you think your strength is as a writer?
I think it is creating. I think what I've learned a lot about is in terms of creating a sound that keeps an audience maybe guessing a little bit, or making sure that the score doesn't sound exactly the same, for 2 hours. So mixing it up enough that way, and strategically bringing in underscoring, or strategically, I'm really having a good time sort of with book writers crafting scene into song and the off and on ramps of singing. And so I'm learning a lot. Yeah.
I love it. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one of my all-time favorite shows, Jersey Boys, within my top 5, most definitely. And you play Bob Crewe forever and a day, I know. I'm so mad I never got to see you in that show, because I've seen the show many, many times. What was that entire experience like? Because within your resume of larger projects you've done, you have Legally Blonde, which is, everyone loves it. It's done everywhere. The MTV experience. And then you go to Jersey Boys, which again, no matter what theater does it, it's a cash cow. It's very beloved. It could probably reopen on Broadway tomorrow and it would be sold out. What was that entire frenzy like?
Oh, wow. Well, like you, I went to see it when it first came out and saw myself in it somehow, I think. And, I think I had a couple of different roles, maybe thinking like, maybe do that one, I can maybe do that one. But it was this like juggernaut of a show, and first of its kind at the time, and sort of broke some ground there. And it's just so well crafted. I can't say enough about the book.
I agree. You know, it's flawless. It's so perfect.
It's a great show. So I went in for it and chorus call after chorus call. And I just eventually, Mary Sugarman sent a message to my agents kind of saying like, you know, he's too wholesome for this show. Like it's just it's not going to happen. Like, wow. And I did just keep going in and singing my same song and trying to like really just somehow fit. And so after a few years of that, they were putting out a second national tour, because at that point they had Broadway, a first national Las Vegas company group. They were going to
cruise ships.
Literally. I mean, it's been everywhere. So at that point, it was going to be the fourth production in the States.
Oh my gosh.
So, and they were, you know, starting from scratch, just going to launch this second national tour. And fortunately for me, they did call me in for a swing track. And so I had to read different roles, and one of them was Bob Crewe, and it was never on my radar at all. Like that.
I was going to say, you're the perfect audio. Like that's.
Well, I always thought so too, but it just never was. It never went that way, right? Which is fine, but so I read these sides for Crewe, and you know, Richard Hester. I remember was in the room, and he was production supervisor, and Mary was in the room, and Ron Melrose, and that it clicked. Something clicked there, and so I ended up getting called back for that role, and that's how it happened. And I was super thankful and excited, and we had this great. They could sort of cast that version of the show just a tad younger. Everyone kind of skewed a little younger in terms of roles. Yeah. So it ended up being a really, really fun fit, and I didn't ever want to leave.
I bet.
I stayed there 6 years, you know, and just knew how fortunate I was, and you know, grateful again for the chance to tour the States and play all these cities and take this show of all shows to, you know, it was like a rock concert. I remember we teched and opened in Philadelphia at the Forest Theater, and just that first audience, the preview audience. I mean, I get chills thinking about that,
I bet.
You know, because I don't think any of us were prepared for that reaction at the end of the show. I was like, this is a fucking rock concert.
Yes,
you know?
Yes.
So it was very exciting, and again, a huge chunk of my life. So met a lot of friends out there, and
I bet.
Yeah, it's just, I think I played every state aside from maybe Wyoming and Hawaii and Alaska. You know, like it just took us everywhere. So, and went to Tokyo with it, and actually ended up filling in for Peter Gregus, who also never left the show on Broadway. Like he did the entire run as Bob Crewe, and he wanted to take a little break. He wanted a summer off, and our tour had a summer layoff. And it just timing wise, I got to be home and then fill in for him in New York, and also play a couple extra roles that I didn't get to do on the tour because
that's awesome.
So it was so dreamy, and just like what a fun opportunity. So it's really kind of tops my list, and it's such a special place in my heart.
I bet. I always thought it was one of those shows, and I'm glad to hear your perspective on it. It was that I always thought it was one of those shows, kind of like Wicked, where if you get to be a part of it, you're a part of something that no one will ever be able to describe. It has a legacy. It is beloved. It's a fan favorite. It's just one of those that when they talk about the greatest shows, or whenever you go to New York and you buy the art, the street art of Times Square, it's always a Jersey Boys marquee and poster. It's just one of those shows that makes everyone feel good. It's phenomenal. It really is. Gaudio was my dream role. I did everything in my power to audition for it. And I got a couple of auditions, and then they were just kind of like, you seem too old. And I was like, yeah, okay. That's what I thought, and
it's so tricky. You just never know because I still would love to hear you sing Cry for Me. Hello.
No. But I there's only one other show, and this one was a surprise. Mamma Mia. Have you ever done Mamma Mia yet?
No.
Wow.
No.
I totally can see you in that. And if I ever direct it, you'll be the first call I make, because
oh my gosh,
you should be in that show. You should be Sam. You could be Harry. But that was one of those shows too that I kind of avoided because I didn't really like it at first. And then I started getting called for it. And I started to fall in love with it and thought, oh, I don't like this show because no one's directed it necessarily the way that I would. I'm always about finding the heart and the authenticity. And I just thought it was kind of kitschy and over the top. But the script was good. The music, of course, was good. And I started to really become close to it. And it's one of those shows that now it's on my list to just be a part of that. And Jersey Boys is still that too. I want to direct that show so badly. And I love that even at my age, I'm not jaded. And I have shows that are on my little dream list and that. And so I want to take it back to you. Do you have a dream role still? Do you have a role that you're like, I really need to play this role before I'm done?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I do.
Wow, okay.
For a while I said like Harold Hill in the music.
Yes.
Yeah. But I really don't know.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I'm just dying to seek out and I guess do.
Wow.
That's sort of how I've always been. I mean,
yeah.
Kind of going back to the Legally Blonde thing, like again, what a fun role to get to understudy that Emmett role, and I just never would have thought of it. And same with Bob Crewe. So I don't know.
I love it. Yeah. I always operated on dream roles and dream shows, and that as a kid, again, listening to those soundtracks from the library, I would imagine myself as Gavroche. I would imagine Marius, and I'd be like, oh, and along the way you find those roles. Now for me, it's interesting. All those roles are big male roles, obviously. And I'm kind of like, oh, okay. What do I think of now? Like what, because I've never thought in those terms because I never thought this would happen. Right. And so people keep asking me, are you going to audition? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have headshots. And yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I don't know what acting is how that is going to play in my life anymore. I don't know. I'm open to it, but I just don't know.
Yeah. And I also think we're in a different space and time too, especially theater wise. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for, which is why I'm having fun with this show Tinseled, writing something that is like, it's set in the North Pole and we're dealing with elves. And so like the casting of a show like that, a story like that, like it can't literally be and should be anything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that excites me.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling that that's going to be more and more. And it's,
Yeah, I know. I agree. And that's why I do have hope that I'm going to act again, because I would love to be Madame Morble and Wicked now, especially because Alexandra did it.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that there are people seemingly open to playing with, casting and gender. And I do think it is a part of our future. It has to be. Mm-hmm. And I love that you're writing shows that aren't very specific, because I think it starts with the writers, not attaching a gender or letting the gender dictate the story,
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's great. I could talk to you forever, and I don't want to take any more of your time. I have 3 questions that I ask every single guest. So I think I gave them to you in advance. I hope I did. As you know, you're on No Fucks Left. So what do you currently, Barry Anderson, have no fucks left about?
Okay. I'm going to have to say worry and like thinking that we have more time than we actually do to like do stuff or like the bucket list idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of like, I guess for myself, I have no fucks left to give in terms of saying, I don't know if I should do this or not. If it's something that I know in my heart of hearts I should or want to really make happen or do.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be it. Just like,
yeah,
we know how quickly these years tick by, right?
Yes.
I look at my calendar. I'm like, how was that literally a year ago? Oh my gosh.
I know.
So might as well send that email, might as well reach out, might as well write the thing or go on that vacation, because it's just, we're only getting older, which is a blessing, right? We're so lucky that we are getting older.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. There was a period of time in our lives recently where if you started to talk about things you were proud about or things that you were really excited about, it seemed braggadocious. And I never subscribed to that. I always thought you should have things you're proud about and you should declare them from the rooftops. So Barry, what are you proud about most in your life as of now, personally, publicly, privately, whatever the case may be?
I guess it personally is the biggest thing. I think it's just my relationship with my family, my husband, and my like family back home too. And just, I value it. And I think, again, the older I get, I know that those connections, whether it's chosen family or blood relations or whatever, it's just like, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're absolutely right.
We need the touchstones and we need the shared experience, the shared history, people. And this goes for you and me too. Like, people who were with you in those moments that are so developmental and instrumental, and making sure those relationships are given the time and the fertilizer, I guess.
Yeah. And we're in such an industry that we don't recognize the transformative power we have on people until they say something. And so I think it's very easy for us to just go through life kind of not realizing our import or really the true connection we have with people. But like even talking to you, hearing that New York, that experience was your first trip ever. I remember my first trip to New York. I will never forget it. You know, it was in choir, and all of those people and memories, even if I never talk to those people again, it's etched in my brain and it's so important. And so to know that along the way, we get the opportunity to be with people and create these lifelong memories. It's just astounding. We're so lucky. We really are. Yeah.
And this is so like a little woo-woo metaphysical, whatever.
I love it.
But I think I'm, again, subscribing to more of this as I age, but this idea of time and memories and that we can literally time travel is the coolest thing to me. That you can hear a song and it can bring tears to your eyes just because they're tears of joy or like heartache or I just think it's so important, and we need to take time to remember that we're all sharing this plane together, and the idea of time might not be linear. What if it's not linear? What if I'm talking to you now, but we're also back at the Dutch Apple on stage in State Fair, all at the same time?
Crazy. I know. I'm so with you. Yeah, especially because I'm writing my memoir now and I'm revisiting and reliving these things. Like the fact that I can remember so many things in detail is just crazy to me, because I can't remember what I ate yesterday. But I can remember that you grew up near Eau Claire, and I could, like, it's just,
how do our brains do that?
I know. I know.
You can't build a computer that can ever do that. So
right. And especially because we're inundated with so much lines and songs and choreography and stuff that, you know, again, the fact that our brains kind of say, oh, this is important, hang on to this, and you don't know what it's important for, but obviously it's happening. And then you have a podcast and you interview someone from your past 25 years ago, and you can make the conversation seem so seamless because you had this real connection. This was, I loved your interview, honestly, and even our benders, because you were the 2 interviews where I didn't have to do any prep, because it was all just in my heart and in my head. And so it was just so easy to be like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake, because we're on a level that I don't get to share with everyone else, which is, it's a treasure. I treasure these moments. And I'll also say, before I ask my last question, we need to connect more. I miss you.
Love that.
It's been too long. So not just Facebook, but let's, and that's one of my kind of call to actions with this show, is that I have many people in my life that I see on Facebook or what have you. And you think that connection is good. Like, you're like, oh, I said happy birthday to you. But no, it's these conversations, it's the catching up. It's the FaceTime, the real FaceTime.
Yeah, right. The literal.
So my last question to you, my dear friend, is what advice was kind of imparted to you, again, professionally or personally or otherwise, that has just always stuck with you, that when you get an opportunity to teach or talk to someone, you always be sure to kind of pass on this little nugget?
Well, gosh, this is so nuts and bolts, but the first thing that comes to mind is, again, this Will Denson, my theater mentor from college. I remember him just saying, be on time.
Oh, yes.
Which is, again, that's in terms of career and just being a good employee and showing up. It's so important, though, really, when you think about it. Like,
very.
We've all been on the bus waiting on a travel day for that person that's still not checked out of their hotel room. Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I do.
Time. Yeah. And I was just actually meeting with a young, about to graduate college person a couple of weeks ago who was visiting New York, and I met them for coffee and just kind of, she had sort of a list of questions about living in New York or just the industry and stuff. And I realized that I can't give a blanket statement about here's what to do, because it's so, I don't know tomorrow what I'm going to be doing.
Right.
And I don't think any of us that are doing this, it's a career that it's not a 9-to-5, and there's so much flexibility and instability with it.
Yeah.
So I think the best advice I can offer someone, or even myself as a reminder, is just evolve. Lean into the evolution of your humanity, your personal life, your career. Just be willing to take some turns and know that there's going to be a dry spell. It'll rain.
Several,
or a pandemic, or we just don't know. So
yeah. I agree. I love it. And then, I teach private lessons. And the one thing I constantly say is, you can listen to my story, but don't even try to, apply it to your own, because this, again, as you said so brilliantly, is an industry where you really have to figure it out yourself and figure out what works for you and what speaks to you. Some people want success right away, and that's great. I'm here to tell you it may not happen, and more often than not, but it's good to have goals, obviously. And so, but I always got from all the biographies I read that everyone's journey is different. Everyone's story is different. Luck has a lot to play with it, as you referenced. And I'm seeing that more and more, they normally work with this person and he wasn't available. And you're just like, there it is. There, you never know. It's crazy. And I kind of like that. I like that somehow, that uncertainty, I guess. It's thrilling. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of the pressure off too.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, I know when I was young and scrappy and hungry for it all, and like really trying to just get experience and get a job. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to give everybody what we think they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, gosh, if you just lead with yourself when you walk in the door, it's going to get you so much more mileage, you know?
Yeah.
Even if
I definitely think that's
role,
yeah.
It kind
that's
of
true
comes
for
back
you.
around to like what you were saying before too, about like authenticity at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, they want to see Landyn walk in the door as herself. You know,
but here's I don't think that was really true when we were coming up. I really don't. I think it was they wanted to see kind of this polished version of what you thought you should be. That's really the sense that I got back then, was that I remember taking audition technique classes, and they were like, well, kind of have a character, have a bravado to yourself, and kind of this energy so that there's confidence. And I have heard, you know, from friends that are constantly working like you, that it's like, I don't know that that's the case anymore. Now they want you, and they want, you know, warts and all, and the good, the bad, the ugly. You can make mistakes. You can, you know, be you, own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that our industry has recognized the power in that.
I think there is a little tide turning there.
Yes. I would agree. And that's for the better. And I also like that the fact that, as you said, evolution, I love that we're in an industry where there really is no retirement age. You can do this literally like Irene Ryan, die on stage, you know, like, hell, that's the best way for me to go. Honestly, I always tell everyone, I'm like, I hope it's an intermission of a show that I'm in, and that's it.
Singing "Time to Start Living" of all things, you know what I mean?
Yep.
How apropos.
I love it. I know.
Yes,
I know.
Indeed.
I can't thank you enough for doing this. I know you're so busy. I'm so humbled that you etched out the time for me. And
I am right back at you, because like I told you, I think, when I saw you were doing a podcast, I love a podcast, by the way.
I do too.
Take a walk every day.
Yeah.
In Riverside Park, and I have my go-tos.
Yeah.
And you are a go-to, and so your guest list is like so dreamy too.
Yes.
So I am honored to have gotten to.
Well, you're dreamy, and you fit right in with that. So I love that I have interviewed people that I haven't worked with, but I also love that I get to talk to people like you that have this amazing career and it's still going, and be able to say, hey, I know him. I was on stage with him. Like it's, you know, even if again, it never happens for me, it's like, well, at one point I was pretty good. I was pretty much on top because I was on stage with Barry and Arbender and, you know, Christy Cates and, you know, for me, again, that simple life of, if that's the best that happens, good. I got great stories. I got great friendships that I value, and I'll never, you know, regret being in this industry. It's the greatest thing ever, truly. So, and I love the people that come with it. So Barry, thank you so much. It means the world to me. Let's, you know, find opportunities to connect, even if it's just on FaceTime or whatever, because I want to stay more invested in your life. And I do think that for me, especially as I'm now finally myself, it's great to be able to kind of ignite and connect these friendships that were, like I said, built in this kind of realm of, oh, Barry doesn't really get to know the real me. That's a shame, you know? So now we get to build upon that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So give my best to Rusty, please.
I will.
And I love you. And I can't thank you enough. And I wish you nothing but the best, truly.
Same.
All right.
My friend.
Bye, buddy. Bye.
I have no fucks left. No. I have no fucks, right? Oh. I have no fucks left. No. So fuck off. I'm busy. Bye.
Well, that is all. That's it. I'm done. Episode's done. And it was a good one, wasn't it? Didn't you enjoy the conversation with Barry? Let's see, what did we learn today? We learned that I am a very, very lucky person to have been able to work and share the stage with such talented and phenomenal artists, and Barry is definitely one of those. We didn't learn because I didn't talk about it, but we must mention the Cubs. Holy shit. Oh, are they for real, folks? Are they really going to do this? Because they look so good. Oh, I love my boys. So that's about it. I can't think of anything else. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And before we leave, let's give you your marching orders, which is be sure to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and always lead with love.
No fucks.
Thank you so much. See you next week.
No, I have no fucks, right? Oh, I have no fucks.
No Fucks Left is a presentation of Transplendent Media. The host and creator is Landyn Shaw. Logo and graphic design by Wally Spence. Our intern and project manager is Ryan Balmer. If you'd like to interact or connect with the show, be sure to visit our website at nofucksleftpod.com. That's nofucksleftpod.com. As always, you can always click on any of the links in the program notes to find out more information about the show, Landyn, and our guests. Thanks.